I sat down in the doorway of my room, the wooden floor cool beneath me, my laptop balanced on my knees. Sunlight spilled through the window, casting golden stripes across the quiet walls. Outside, the faint hum of life went on, cars passing, a neighbor's laughter, but inside, everything felt calm, familiar, and mine. I had chosen this small corner of my home for a reason. Here, I could think, work, and disappear into my own little world. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment, pausing to savor the quiet. There was a strange comfort in these daily routines, a sense that if I stayed busy enough, the emptiness I sometimes felt wouldn't catch up with me. Yet, even in this solitude, my thoughts wandered. My partner was busy again, buried in work, barely noticing the subtle cracks in our relationship. And I, wrapped in the safety of my room, couldn't decide whether to miss him or to revel in the peace his absence brought. I reached for my cup of tea, the warmth seeping into my hands, steam curling upward like a whisper. Each sip grounded me, each click of the keyboard a small anchor to the normalcy I clung to. But even as I typed, my mind betrayed me. I found myself thinking about him, about us, about the laughter we shared and the silences that had started to feel heavier than our conversations. My heart felt a quiet tug, a longing I didn't fully understand. The doorway framed the rest of the house. I noticed shoes by the entrance, the soft hum of the fan above, the gentle sway of the curtains. Everything was ordinary, yet in that ordinariness, a subtle tension lingered. It was as if the calm of the room carried a secret warning. Something unanticipated could arrive at any moment to shake the walls of my carefully curated life. And then, almost instinctively, I glanced at the corridor outside my room. Nothing. Just the empty hallway, sun and shadows playing across the floor. I reminded myself that everything was fine, that I was content with my work and my solitude. But a strange awareness settled in, a sense that the quiet I cherished might be fragile, that life could intrude in the most unexpected ways. So I sat there, the doorway cradling me like a cocoon, and focused on my work. I typed, paused, scribbled notes, and tried to push the wandering thoughts aside. God willing, today would be just like every other day, quiet, productive, and safe. Yet beneath the calm, a flutter of anticipation lingered, a whisper that perhaps, today, the ordinary would change forever. The quiet of the room was broken by a soft knock on the doorframe. I froze, my fingers hovering above the keyboard. It wasn't usual for anyone to come without warning. My heart skipped, an odd mix of curiosity and caution pulling at me. Slowly, I turned my head toward the doorway. A shadow appeared, tall and unassuming, hesitating just at the edge of my room. "Hey, I thought I'd drop by," came a gentle, unfamiliar voice. My first instinct was to keep working, to retreat further into the safety of my little world. But something in the tone, a casual warmth, made me pause. It was unexpected, and yet not alarming, more like the kind of disruption that made ordinary life feel suddenly interesting. I didn't look directly at him. I stayed focused on my hands, on the laptop screen, letting the silence stretch for a few heartbeats. "Come in," I murmured finally, though my voice sounded different even to me, quieter, hesitant. He stepped inside, careful not to disturb the fragile calm I had built around myself. He sat nearby, not too close, but close enough that I could sense his presence. There was an energy about him, subtle but undeniable, that made the air feel warmer, heavier, somehow more electric. I tried to focus on my work, but every glance I dared to steal was met with the faintest smile, a quiet acknowledgement that seemed to speak directly to something hidden in me. We began talking, at first about trivial things, the weather, mutual acquaintances, little anecdotes. But gradually, the conversation took a turn I hadn't expected. I found myself laughing more freely than I had in weeks, my lips curving at the sound of his stories, my fingers tapping nervously against the edge of the desk. There was a charm in his presence, a pull that I hadn't realized I was missing so deeply. Even as I enjoyed the conversation, a flicker of unease passed through me. Loyalty whispered in the back of my mind, reminding me of promises, of commitments I had made. But it was overpowered by curiosity, by the thrill of this unexpected attention, by the sense of being seen in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. The sunlight shifted, painting his silhouette across the room. I felt a strange awareness of every subtle movement, how he leaned slightly forward when he laughed, how his hand brushed a stray hair from his forehead, how the corners of his eyes crinkled in amusement. I wanted to focus on work, to close the laptop and retreat into routine, but the energy in the room made it impossible. Something had arrived unannounced, something that promised excitement and danger all at once. By the time he left, I was shaken, not with fear, but with a restless longing I couldn't place. My hands hovered over the keyboard again, but the words wouldn't come. The quiet of the room no longer felt safe, it felt charged, as if the calm I had clung to so tightly had been quietly disrupted. And deep down, I knew, God willing, that today was no longer just another ordinary day. Checkmark visual cues for faceless video, part 2. Shadow appearing in the doorway, silhouette only. Close-up of hands nervously tapping the desk. Over-the-shoulder shot of him entering without revealing his face. Subtle movement of sunlight across the floor or desk. Fingers fidgeting with a pen or hair, showing nervous excitement. Slightly open door, hinting at intrusion into her private space. If you want, I can continue with part 3, where the story moves into temptation and emotional conflict, showing the inner struggle and attraction intensifying. Do you want me to continue with part 3 now? After he left, the room felt unusually quiet, though my mind refused to settle. I stared at the laptop screen, but the words wouldn't come. My fingers hovered above the keys, hesitating, restless. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his silhouette in the doorway, the faint warmth of his presence lingering like a shadow I couldn't shake. I tried to focus on work, reminding myself of routine, of loyalty, of promises I had made. But each time I reminded myself, the memory of his laughter, the tilt of his head, the way his voice lingered in the air, made it impossible to concentrate. God willing, I thought, this was just a fleeting distraction. Yet deep down, I knew it wasn't just that. It was something more, something dangerous, intoxicating. The day stretched on. I found excuses to glance at my phone, half hoping for a message, half dreading it. My heart raced at the thought of receiving a simple, hey, of feeling that quiet connection again. Each notification made my pulse quicken, even if it was only an email or a work alert. The line between anticipation and guilt blurred. In quiet moments, I caught myself imagining scenarios I shouldn't. Innocent touches became lingering glances in my mind. Casual words replayed with hidden meaning. I felt a thrill I couldn't admit even to myself. A sense of forbidden curiosity gnawed at me. I wanted to resist, to retreat into the safety of my routine, but every time I tried, my thoughts betrayed me, leading me back to him. I wandered around my room, hands brushing over familiar objects, books, papers, a half-drained cup of tea. Everything felt ordinary, yet everything reminded me of the intrusion, the possibility, the temptation. My heartbeat quickened with each imagined encounter, and the quiet space that once felt safe now seemed charged, almost electric. Guilt pressed against my chest, heavy and unrelenting. I thought of my partner, of the life I had built, of the trust I had given. How could one simple visit, one innocent conversation, cause such a shift? And yet, desire, curiosity, and the thrill of attention mingled in a way I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. The struggle between right and wrong, loyalty and temptation, settled like a storm inside me. As evening approached, I sat back in the doorway, the fading sunlight casting long shadows across the floor. I realized, God willing, that I was no longer the same person who had sat here in the morning. Something inside me had changed, a flicker of rebellion, a spark of desire, a sense that life could be more complicated, more thrilling, more dangerous than I had imagined. And as the room darkened, the shadows deepened, I knew the question wasn't whether I would act on my feelings, but when. Checkmark visual cues for faceless video, part 3. Hands hovering over a phone, hesitating to type. Slow pan across the room, showing empty objects bathed in warm, fading sunlight. Close-up of tapping fingers or fidgeting with hair. Shadowed figure at the window or doorway, implied rather than shown. A teacup, half empty, sitting abandoned on the desk. Curtains swaying as if reflecting inner turmoil. If you want, I can write part 4 next, the climactic section where the protagonist crosses the line and faces consequences, keeping it dramatic, faceless, and suspenseful. Do you want me to continue with part 4 now? Night had settled over the room, and the soft glow of the desk lamp cast elongated shadows across the walls. I sat in the doorway again, But this time, I was not alone in my thoughts. The anticipation that had simmered all day had grown into something undeniable, something that demanded attention. My phone buzzed lightly, and I knew it was him. My fingers trembled as I reached for it. The message was simple, casual, yet loaded with unspoken meaning. Can I come by? My heartbeat raced. I knew the moment I allowed him back in, nothing would be the same. God willing, I thought, I would be careful, but even as I tried to steel myself, a shiver of excitement ran down my spine. He arrived, quietly, almost silently. I didn't look up. I let the doorway frame him as he stepped inside. There was a tension in the air, heavy, electric, almost tangible. Our eyes never needed to meet. A shared glance, a subtle tilt of the head, a fleeting touch on the desk, all of it spoke louder than words could. The ordinary calm of the room had vanished, replaced by a charged intimacy I could neither deny nor control. We moved closer, yet always in shadow, always faceless, leaving only hints of proximity and connection. My hands brushed against his as we passed a notebook, my chest tightening with the smallest contact. I could feel the storm inside me, desire, guilt, thrill, and fear all intertwined. I told myself it was only fleeting, that it wouldn't cross the boundary, but each moment pulled me deeper into a dangerous, intoxicating orbit. Time became a blur. Words were few, unnecessary, the silence was heavy with meaning. Every subtle movement, every shadow, every breath filled the space between us with tension. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in months, maybe years, but that life came with a price. A quiet pang of guilt struck my chest. My partner, my promises, my morality, all reminded me that this thrill was forbidden, that the door I had opened might never be closed in the same way. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, he was gone. The doorway was empty once more, the room quiet again, yet the air still felt charged, almost trembling from what had passed. I sank back to the floor, my hands clutching the edge of the desk, my mind a whirl of emotions, regret, longing, fear, and a lingering excitement that refused to fade. God willing, I whispered, how could one encounter change everything so completely? The night stretched on, and I stared at the dimly lit room, knowing that the calm I had once cherished was gone forever. Something inside me had shifted irrevocably. I had crossed a line, however subtly, and there was no returning to the simplicity of morning. I was left with the quiet of my room, the weight of choices made, and the undeniable truth. Life had become infinitely more complicated, and I was standing at the edge, aware of the thrill and danger that lay ahead. Checkmark visual cues for faceless video, part 4. Shadows moving in dim, warm lighting, no faces shown. Hands brushing over a desk, a phone, or a notebook. Over the shoulder shots of a doorway, showing presence without identity. Curtains swaying slightly, suggesting tension and movement. Close-up of trembling hands or a teacup knocked slightly askew. Slow pan of empty room after he leaves, leaving an atmosphere of lingering suspense. This concludes your 2,000-word, 4-part faceless infidelity story with Part 1, Calm Before Disruption. Part 2, Unexpected Encounter. Part 3, Temptation and Emotional Conflict. Part 4, Crossing the Line and Consequences. I can also create a ready-to-use video plan with all 4 parts, showing scene-by-scene visual directions, camera angles, lighting, and motion, which would make it instantly ready for faceless video production. Do you want me to make that full visual production plan?